Dala! So, in this episode of African Spirituality, we are going to be talking about the differences between spirituality and religion. And as I've mentioned in other videos, there are many system of beliefs in Africa. And not all of them are religion. Some of the most known African religion are voodoo and other similar system from West Africa. However, as you move outside of West Africa into the East or into Central Africa and some part of South Africa, you will see that there are many systems of beliefs that are not organized religion, that do not require the intermediary of a priest, of someone between you and the deities, or someone between you and your ancestors, or someone to officially or formally teach you about that. And this is what we're going to get into. And of course, all of these podcasts or videos are really my perspective and based on my experiences and what I've seen and how I've learned throughout the years. So the first thing I'll say that we'll do is to go over some of the differences between spirituality and religion. And one of the first assumptions that people always make is that if you're not religious, if you're not part of a certain, especially part of the main three revealed religion, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, people, especially people part of those religions, will assume that you have to be, worshipping the devil or doing something that's evil or something like that, which is completely not true and far-fetched. And which also speaks to the limitation that those people may have in terms of seeing the world or understanding the world, and the fact that we are 7 billion people on this planet, and we're certainly not going to have the same type of outlook on life or have the same type of experience of this reality. So that's the first thing I wanted to highlight. Second is that when you look at any religious systems or any religion, what they are really basically telling you in all of the systems is that there are a type of process. There is a type of hierarchy. You have to start at the bottom and work your way up. And for the most part, there is always somebody that has to be there in order to enable you to learn and to really grow into the religion. So, for example, in Christianity or whether it is in Judaism, you'll have the rabbi. That's the intermediary between the individual and the deity. In Christianity, you have the priests, the pastors. In Islam, you have the imam. And this evaluation or this postcard here is just in response to many people who have told me, send me email and questions telling me that they are kind of confused and they don't understand the differences. So it's in no way to say that if you are part of one of those religions, or if that's what you believe in, or you've been initiated, that is something negative or positive. It's just to highlight some of the differences from my own perspective. So those are the main three religions. But also in Hinduism, you have the Brahman, you have the caste of the gurus, you have several individuals that are there to kind of guide you, that are there to kind of like help you on your path. And in some of those traditions, without such gurus or somebody to guide you, you're basically not going to be able to do it or make it on your own. And that's kind of the common thread about all of the religions, is that if you don't get baptized, for example, you're not going to get to meet God and all this stuff. There are processes that you have to go through the institution, some sort of institution, in order for you to seek the final ultimate goal that you seek, whether it's to go to heaven, paradise, however they call that place, or to feel peaceful spiritually and mentally on this material realm on this earth. So there's always this intermediary. If you look at voodoo or some of the other religious system of belief from Africa, you will see that you have to have a priest or a priestess initiate you into the tradition or the religion. And pretty much without that initiation, it is also assumed that you're not going to get the full benefit, or you're not going to be able to interact with certain deities a certain way. So that's the main, for me, that's the main core of the differences between spirituality and religion. Religion, there has to be some form of intermediary. There is kind of a hierarchical relationship between the non-initiated and the initiated, and the priestesses or what have you, who are intermediaries between you and the deities, or you and the source, as someone will call it. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect also is that to me, religion is something you have to learn. It's something that someone has to teach you. Hence the role of the priest, the pastor, the rabbi, or the guru, the person that's there to guide you, to give you the pointers that you need in order to advance further on your path. And it's pretty much, don't really push people to do work on their own, to advance on their own. You don't do your first communion whenever you feel ready. You do it when you finish a certain process, you met certain criteria, and then you can move forward. Same way for any type of initiation. You don't just decide that you want to move up the ladder. You will have to go through the priestess and the priesthood, the patrona, whoever else is your intermediary, whoever elders is being assigned to evaluate you. Those are the people who are basically going to decide whether you are moving further up or not. As opposed to spirituality, where basically spirituality to me is something that's innate. Okay, spirituality is that little voice when someone gives you information, that little voice that give you, that connect you with any type of deities, any type of what people will refer to as God, the source, the universe, the cosmos, whatever. And that voice is innate. That energy, that voice, that spirit, you come with it on this earth. Therefore, no one else can be an intermediary between you and that force, because that force, it is actually within you. And from that perspective, spirituality, which you'll find even in the word, spirituality has the word spirit in it, because we all have a spirit. No one needs to develop any type of superpower or anything like that. Your spirit is within you. It is your soul. It is what people refer to as your higher self, however you want to call it. And therefore, one of the things is that you can never be excommunicated from spirituality because it is an individual path. It is an innate path. You are always on charge. You are always in charge in the sense that you have always access to that force. You have always access to go back within and find out information on your own, or to connect with deities on your own. And spirituality, unlike religion, even though spirituality will also be shaped based on cultural, social context where the person or the individual grows up or is born in, of course, there are going to be some influences. However, those influences can take you from one culture to another. So this is why oftentimes we have people who will leave whatever culture they're born with to go marry into another culture. Most of the time you have people leaving East Africa, going to West Africa, from West Africa to South Africa, and so forth and so on. There have been many mixing, and people who left their own villages to go somewhere else to find a place where the spirituality or circumstances led them there, and who married in and acquired the customs and belief system of other traditions. So this is also why sometimes when people kind of get stuck on the DNA test result that's telling them that they're from West Africa, oftentimes I say that being from West Africa doesn't mean anything. It doesn't give you anything about your tradition, your culture, your system of belief, or anything like that. And one of the great ways for you to be able to know where you come from and to have access to that information is through meditation. Meditation is the only tool that will actually rest only upon yourself, that is not dependent on someone else doing some divination, on someone else giving you pointers, or on someone else initiating you into a different culture, a different system of beliefs. And I think a lot of individuals will gain a lot more certainty when if they used meditation a lot more, if they activated themselves in order to find out within themselves what affinities they have and what cultural background they do have. And even knowing your cultural background is not going to be a limitation, because we all have free will. You are not, because it's not because you're coming from a specific lineage, a specific ethnic group of culture, that you have to be stuck there. As I've mentioned, people even on the continent have been moving from what ethnic group, marrying into different groups, adopting different systems of beliefs that suits them best. And I think this is one of the strengths of Africa, is that we have many various systems of beliefs, as well as traditions within those systems of beliefs. And while a lot of people are oftentimes too, I think on my part, or my perspective, too focused on the system of the Orishas or Palo or Santeria, so, which are basically some of the most popularized systems, where everybody, is kind of becoming that if you're a Black person and you don't know about the Orishas, you're kind of a cast out, I think. While in fact, there are so many more systems of beliefs and traditions which enrich our culture, enrich our nations. And I think people should go a little bit further and explore other system of belief, because they may be surprised about what is out there and how much more suitable those system may be for them. So that's the one of the core, is that spirituality to me is something that's innate. It's something that we don't have to teach you. It's something that if you get in tune with yourself, you'll find your own path on your own way. From the African's perspective, that often leads to finding your own ancestors, and from your ancestor communicating with you. Nobody can interfere with you communicating with your ancestors. I think I've seen a lot of different discussions about people saying that, you may be tricked by some other entities, or you may be opening yourself to all kind of things. What I'm talking about here has nothing to do with rituals. When you start indulging in rituals, you're opening yourself up, yes, indeed, to contacting all kind of entities that may or not may be your ancestors. However, what I'm talking about, doing meditation and, and the way I envision it, is just really basically asking questions to yourself about who you are and where you're going and who were your ancestors and what kind of traditions, specific questions, and just diving into yourself and focusing on your own energy. So we talked a lot about how the ancestors live within us, how we are the ancestors, how the ancestors are within our bloodlines. And that bloodline, basically, that DNA is already within you. So you're not tapping into some other forces in the cosmos, or, wherever, galactical forces or whatever that people are really into these days. You are really tuning into within your own self. And that specific intention has to be there when you're meditating. Part of my approach is that, we have free will because we are able to use it. We are able to canalize the kind of energy that we want to interact with. And I think the most of the time when people are interacting with deities or manipulating them, or entities are manipulating them, is because to begin with, they haven't set any perimeters, they haven't set any boundaries in terms of what kind of interaction they want to have and what kind of entity they want to contact. So this is why you have to be very specific in terms of what kind of in terms of focusing on your own ancestors and on your own bloodline. I'm not saying that doing so is going to bring you only wonderful experiences, because within your bloodline there may be a lot of traumas as well. Some of us have endured some type of mixing of the bloodline that was pretty violent. So that kind of energy and experience may also reside in your bloodline, and you have to be aware of that. And you have to be aware of the fact that it's not going to be all rosy. Not everybody, none of us are having nice, perfect lives. And so you cannot expect your ancestors to have had that kind of life either. But you just have to recognize so that that kind of experience may be shown to you as you're discovering more about yourself, where you come from, and all those different things. And that's what spirituality can really give you, because spirituality is going to push you to be basically on your own, to really tap into your own energy, into your own self. While I think religion is more into connecting with others, into fitting into that hierarchy, into fitting into that particular group and system of beliefs, which may or may not work for some people. And then also the difference between spirituality and religion. Another big difference of importance here is that what happens when you deviate? What happens when you no longer have this belief system, or when you no longer want to take the path you were on? So basically, when you are from an aspect, the point of view of spirituality, if you decide at some point that learning the teaching of your grandmother or grandparents has been very helpful, but you want to expand and explore other systems of belief, basically there's no repercussion, especially when your ancestors are pushing you to do so, when you're being called to do so, when you're also interacting with your ancestors and letting them know that this is a pull that you're having, you're communicating with that. So they are much more or less things to be fearful of in terms of your own repercussion. Is that if you've mastered your own system of beliefs from your own tradition, there's no issues in terms of going and exploring other system of belief, understanding that, because at the end of the day, knowing different systems of belief is going to help you understand where other people comes from. Those people who have their own system of belief, when you understand where they're coming from, you can understand how to better communicate with them. So it is not something that's going to have some negative repercussion, and that is very different from you adopting a different system of belief or a different type of spirituality. But essentially, you are able to navigate and learn from other systems and learn from other people without being judgmental, or without holding some type of hierarchical ground by saying that your spirituality is best or better than them. And talking from the African perspective, or the African spiritual perspective, when we are talking about having a spirituality that to a large extent reside on you interacting with your own ancestors and furthering your lineage and the goal that were placed before you, there is a big difference, because then you don't have that mindset of trying to convert other people to your own system, because you are in different parallel lines. Your lines may intersect, your path may intersect with someone else, but that person can never jump onto your own path. As I've mentioned before, sometimes your grandfather can tell you things that he's not going to tell your brother or your sister, based on what your abilities are and based on your own comprehension and what your own purpose is. So there is a certain understanding about the individuality, about how as an individual you may have a different path than anyone else, and how that path is not better or lesser than someone else. You just have to understand that it is different. So from that aspect, spirituality tends to be a lot more, a lot more compatible or tolerant of other ways of belief, system of beliefs, religion, etc., etc. And as you see, it's hardly the people who are spiritual who are going to, who are fully based on spirituality, who are, making wars about, furthering their ancestors and things like that. From the concrete term of spirituality, where we're talking about dominating other people in all kind of ways. Now, when you go back to religion, there you see the big difference. You see that if you, for example, decide to leave a religion, you may have a lot of negative energy coming towards you from your own family, trying to prevent you from leaving the religion, but also maybe your friends, people from the community, your religious community, and what have you. So you see that there is the moment you want to leave, there's going to be a kind of a force of energy trying to bring you back or trying to keep you there. And most religion will tell you that they have the whole truth and that their religion or their way is the only way, and everyone else doing that is going to hell. Some other religion recognize only certain other religions, so they will tell you only those two religions that are part of our own tree family are acceptable. The rest of you are just doing all kind of things and going to hell. There are other religions that really don't mind or don't care about people who are outside their own and focus on themselves. But ultimately, the difference here is that if you decide to leave that religion or to leave that path, to leave that priesthood or that particular religion, there's going to be some consequences that are going to be, and those consequences are most of the time negative, which means that you will be pressured about your process, and you're really going to have to affirm yourself in order to leave this kind of stuff, and in order to overcome the pressure being placed on you. And I think this is no matter what religion, because the point of a religion is having an organization where there is a hierarchy within it, and there are certain rules that you must obey by or rip the consequences and the negative consequences most of the time when you're deciding to leave. So that's another point to take in consideration. But ultimately, one of the main differences that people always raised in terms of spirituality versus religion is that, you know, most of the time they say that religion is man-made. All of the sacred books that you find were written by a person. Ultimately written by the person, whether it says that, you know, whatever is written came straight from God or came straight from this entity or that entity or what have you. Bottom line is somebody wrote it down. You know, for it to be in a book, it was written down. Okay, so that's one of the major differences, that people will say that, you know, it's man-made, the religions are man-made. However, when you look at spirituality, because it comes straight from your spirit, there's no interference between other human beings and in that aspect. So I hope this answered the question that was sent, and of course, if you have other further questions, don't hesitate to send them. See you soon. Bye bye.